Today, we explore a series of critical global events shaping our world, from escalating conflict in the Middle East to significant geopolitical tensions in Europe and Asia. The stories are as urgent as they are impactful. Here are today's top 10 stories you need to know. In a significant development, charges have been filed against an Indian crime boss in connection with the assassination of a prominent Sikh leader in Canada. This high-profile killing has strained diplomatic ties between Canada and India, prompting widespread calls for accountability. The case has garnered international attention, highlighting the complexities of cross-border crime and its implications for foreign relations. As investigations continue, Canadian authorities are under pressure to ensure justice is served. The ramifications of this case could influence future cooperation on security matters between the two nations. Observers are keenly watching how this situation unfolds, as it may affect broader geopolitical dynamics. Will this lead to a reassessment of international crime policies? In light of recent escalations, the United States has announced a new round of economic sanctions targeting key sectors of Iran's economy. These sanctions are aimed at pressuring Iran to curb its military activities and return to negotiations over its nuclear program. The implications of these sanctions are significant, as they could exacerbate the already fragile economic situation in Iran. International businesses are reevaluating their ties with the country, fearing repercussions from the U.S. government. Analysts warn that increased economic pressure may lead to further instability in the region. The effectiveness of these sanctions in achieving diplomatic goals remains to be seen. As tensions rise, the global community is left wondering how Iran will respond and what this means for future negotiations. A new international conference on climate change has brought together leaders from around the globe to discuss urgent actions needed to combat environmental degradation. This gathering comes at a critical moment, as extreme weather events like hurricanes, wildfires, and floods have become increasingly frequent and severe, underscoring the urgency of coordinated global efforts. The conference aims to establish ambitious targets for reducing carbon emissions while fostering collaboration among nations. However, critics point out that previous summits, such as the Paris Agreement, have often fallen short of delivering meaningful results, breeding skepticism about the effectiveness of these talks. Key discussions will focus on financing for sustainable energy projects and enhancing technology transfer to developing countries, which are disproportionately affected by climate change. The outcomes of this conference could significantly influence global climate policy, shaping the trajectory for future environmental initiatives and potentially steering the world toward a more sustainable future. The stakes have never been higher. In response to severe flooding caused by heavy rainfall, emergency services are racing against time to provide aid to stranded residents in affected areas. Reports indicate that entire neighborhoods have been submerged, leaving many without access to food, water, or medical assistance. Local authorities are deploying rescue teams and airlifting supplies to those in need. The flooding follows a pattern of extreme weather events linked to climate change, raising concerns about preparedness and resilience. Critics argue that earlier investments in infrastructure could have mitigated the damage. As the situation unfolds, humanitarian organizations are mobilizing resources to assist affected families, providing essentials like food and shelter. The long-term impact of these floods could strain local economies and infrastructure, affecting livelihoods and public health. Communities already facing economic challenges may struggle for years to recover. The effectiveness of current rescue efforts and future planning will be pivotal in shaping a more resilient response to similar disasters down the line. China has successfully tested a new rocket booster recovery system at sea, marking a significant milestone in its space exploration efforts. This advancement is expected to enhance the country's capabilities in launching and reusing rockets, thereby reducing costs and increasing efficiency. The test involved a booster returning to a designated ocean area, showcasing China's growing technical expertise. As the nation continues to invest heavily in its space program, this development is seen as a potential game changer in the global space race. International reactions have been mixed, While some nations applaud technological advancements, others voice concerns over China's expanding capabilities and potential military applications. This could alter existing international partnerships in space exploration, creating a more competitive landscape. Experts suggest that as China strengthens its presence in orbit, it may spur other countries to accelerate their own space initiatives. Looking ahead, the implications of this technology could redefine the dynamics of international space collaboration and competition in the coming decades. A cargo ship was attacked off the coast of Yemen in the Red Sea, sparking international concern over maritime security in the region. The British military confirmed the incident, highlighting a significant escalation in the ongoing conflict surrounding Yemen. This attack is part of a disturbing trend of violence that has seen various vessels targeted by militant groups, particularly those linked to the Houthis. Shipping routes in the Red Sea are vital for global trade, accounting for a substantial portion of the world's oil and goods transport. The frequency of these incidents raises alarms about the safety of maritime operations, prompting fears among shipping companies and insurers. The international community is now calling for increased naval presence to protect these crucial shipping lanes and ensure safe passage for vessels. As geopolitical tensions mount, the implications for global trade and regional security could be profound. Experts suggest that if these attacks continue, it may lead to a renewed focus on securing vital trade routes, particularly in conflict-ridden areas like the Red Sea. Typhoon Bavi is rapidly approaching the coastlines of Japan, Taiwan, and China, raising alarms among residents and authorities alike. The storm, classified as a strong typhoon, boasts winds reaching up to 130 kilometers per hour, posing a serious threat to vulnerable coastal communities. Evacuations have been ordered in several areas as officials brace for potential flooding and landslides. Historical data reveals that storms of this magnitude often result in extensive damage, prompting concerns about the preparedness and resilience of affected regions. In 2019, Typhoon Hagibis caused widespread destruction in Japan, highlighting the need for robust emergency plans. The anticipated impact of Bavi includes significant disruptions to transportation networks and power supplies, which could hinder emergency responders' efforts. As communities ready themselves for the storm's landfall, the focus will soon shift to rescue operations and recovery strategies. Meteorologists continue to monitor the storm's path closely, providing updates to help residents make informed decisions. The coming days will be critical in determining the extent of Bavi's impact on the region. In a significant show of military strength, Iran has reportedly conducted multiple strikes against U.S. military assets across the Middle East. This increase in hostilities comes after escalating tensions between Iran and the United States, particularly following the recent assassination of a high-profile Iranian leader, which many believe has heightened anti-American sentiment in Iran. The Iranian government claims these strikes are a necessary response to perceived threats from the West and a demonstration of its military capabilities. The situation has sparked fears of a broader conflict, as U.S. officials assess the potential for retaliation and the implications for American forces stationed in the region. This surge in military action has prompted urgent discussions among U.S. allies, including Israel and Saudi Arabia, who are concerned about Iran's growing influence. Analysts are questioning the long-term implications for stability in the Middle East, particularly regarding energy security and international trade routes. As military posturing continues, the critical question remains: will diplomatic efforts succeed in de-escalating tensions, or are we on the brink of a larger confrontation that could reshape the region's geopolitical landscape? As the war in Ukraine continues, Russia has ramped up its military operations, launching new offensives in the eastern regions, particularly in Donetsk and Luhansk. Ukrainian officials report increased troop movements and artillery shelling, resulting in further loss of life and displacement of civilians. The conflict, which began in 2014, has already led to the deaths of thousands and created millions of refugees. Despite ongoing negotiations, the situation remains dire, with both sides suffering heavy casualties and no clear path to peace. The international community has responded with heightened sanctions against Russia and increased military aid to Ukraine, including advanced weaponry and training for Ukrainian forces. This latest escalation threatens to undermine any hopes of a peaceful resolution, as both sides seem entrenched in their positions, fueled by nationalistic fervor and external support. Analysts warn that a prolonged conflict could lead to a wider regional crisis, potentially destabilizing neighboring countries and affecting global energy supplies and security. The future of Ukraine hangs in the balance as the fighting intensifies, with winter approaching and humanitarian conditions worsening. As military confrontations escalate, diplomatic efforts may become increasingly urgent, necessitating innovative solutions to achieve a lasting ceasefire and restore stability in the region. In a dramatic escalation, Israel and Hamas have reignited their violent conflict, leading to widespread airstrikes and casualties on both sides. This surge of violence follows a brief ceasefire, which had offered a glimmer of hope for peace. Within just a few days, reports indicate hundreds of casualties, highlighting the intensity of this conflict, one of the most severe in recent years. The destruction in Gaza is significant, with buildings reduced to rubble and essential services severely disrupted. This has exacerbated an already dire humanitarian crisis, leaving civilians vulnerable and in desperate need of aid. The historical context of this conflict is rooted in decades of territorial disputes and political tensions, which have repeatedly flared into violence. The latest outbreak threatens to destabilize not only Israel and Palestine, but also neighboring states, potentially drawing in global powers with vested interests in the region. International leaders are urgently calling for ceasefire negotiations to prevent further loss of life and suffering. As diplomatic efforts intensify, the outlook remains uncertain. The potential for a renewed peace process exists, but so does the risk of further escalation. The international community must act decisively to foster dialogue and promote stability, as the consequences of inaction could be catastrophic for millions in the region. Thank you for joining us today. Which story impacted you the most? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates.